Why Israel's recognition of Somaliland as an independent state is controversial. Israel has taken the controversial decision to recognize the breakaway state of Somaliland as an independent nation, sparking condemnation from many other countries. The U.S., however, defended Israel's decision at an emergency session of the UN Security Council to discuss the issue, saying the response contrasted with the decision taken by a number of UN member countries to recognize a Palestinian state earlier in the year, a move that the U.S. strongly opposed. Early this year, he said, several countries, including members of this council, made the unilateral decision to recognize a non-existent Palestinian state, and yet no emergency meeting was called to express this council's outrage. The UN Deputy Ambassador to the UN, Tammy Bruce, said, why does he want to do this? A breakaway semi-desert territory on the coast of the Gulf of Aden. Somaliland declared independence after the overthrow of Somali military dictator Siad Barre in 1991. And just want to show you a map here, which is important. So Somaliland is here. And guess what is on the other side? Yemen, which is constantly, and this is the Red Sea leading up to the Suez Canal. And so with Israel being here, it gets to police what sort of travels along this line. And this is Somali, and this is the parts that has decided they wanted to break away. So what's your initial thought with this, quote unquote, self-determination, as it were?
Okay, so first of all, I can understand why Somaliland wants to be independent from the rest of Somalia. That is the only part of what was Somalia before they decided to, quote unquote, break away. That has been relatively peaceful for over the last 30 years, you know. And you can tell by the map, somebody watching, you can see it's not like directly continuous, that some of the problems that you see in Somalia proper right now would spill into Somaliland.
Yeah.
So, and their economy compared to the rest of Somalia has been, because they have peace and stability. So that is one thing they have an advantage. And they're hoping that by being recognized as independent, they will be able to have more direct dealings with other countries, more investments, which they believe also would benefit the economy. And of course, the argument is that these are essentially the same people, Somalis. And why are they being productive and prosperous? Because they enjoy peace. So then it would seem that the ideal solution is to also make sure that the rest of Somalia can have peace and stability. That would be the solution, right? So that they could also thrive. And then you would see more incentive for all of Somalia to be reunited. That's one part of it. The second part, of course, is that so long as the status quo is maintained, Somalia will never invade Somaliland to say, okay, we're going to launch a war of reunification, right?
Okay.
So it could be compared to like a situation you had in Nigeria with Biafra, right? We're going to invade so that we can reunite, because they benefit. Somalia also benefits from stability in Somaliland. The people in Somaliland actually, they send support to relatives that they also have in Somalia. So it's sort of been a win-win so far, but it's no longer a win-win when Somaliland wants to be officially recognized as a separate nation. And then, of course, the other point, and this is perhaps the final point I want to make, is that the entity that is recognizing you, with all the problems that it has, all its history, of course, first of all, of dispossessing the Palestinians of their own land. And then so the history is not comparable when the U.S. diplomat at the UN makes that nonsense analogy. These are absolutely different histories, incomparable. And then the final point is that if you give a base to Israel, rest assured, not only the Houthis, but other entities are going to start striking militarily Somaliland as well. So you're inviting war by proxy against Israel on the African continent proper. That is the most dangerous aspect of this arrangement.